Hey, what's going on? How y'all doing out there in Atlanta, Bird Gang land? It is your Uncle Steve here on a Monday. Also joining me on Uncle Steve's Lounge. We appreciate you on YouTube. If you hadn't had an opportunity, please go over to the YouTube. Push the subscribe button. It costs absolutely 0 cents. So you have no reason not to. Just push that on there for you, and you'll be able to go back and watch some of the content that we put online and the subjects we're talking about. How's it going out there? If you're in Atlanta, GA right now, or in the surrounding areas, you are probably more than likely inside because it is hot out there. If I look on the thing, I think it's 95, at least that's what it's showing here, that is 95. But and they say the worst is yet to come. So we got some hot weather. So what a better way to start a Monday than to sit inside, chill out a little bit, and hang with your Uncle Steve for the next, hopefully, hour or so, and talk a little bit about these Atlanta Falcons. Got the mandatory little 4-day camp or 3-day camp coming up this week for the Falcons. Not expecting a lot of people not to show up. We'll see what the deal is on that, see who shows. I'm sure you'll probably get everybody. I think you had just about everybody in camp, aside of Deion Jones, who was injured. But going forward, I did want to talk about, and it's not the main subject, but put this on your back burner if you get a chance to. I wanted to talk about at least 3 players that you think it's going to be imperative for them to show up in 2022 in order for us to have a successful campaign. 3 Atlanta Falcons who need to show up this year in order for us to have a successful season. So what I really wanted to get into today was something interesting, and I've noticed this happened since March, and it's not like I didn't think it wasn't going to happen, but of course the biggest news by far with the Atlanta Falcons, honestly, probably the biggest news since losing the Super Bowl in February 2017, but the trading of Matt Ryan from this franchise. And I know some of you are going to, oh man, we rehashing this again. Before you turn this off, hear me out before you do that. What I wanted to discuss was, where do you draw the line on supporting former Falcon players? One of the reasons why I brought this up is because there's a guy on YouTube that I actually follow, and he's not that bad, on one of the sports things that we have. And he recently bought a Indianapolis Colts jersey with Matt Ryan on it. And when he bought it, there was this thing where he was trying to explain how I'm still this big Falcon fan, but I'm going to wear this Matt Ryan jersey. And I mean, he had the whole thing where he unpackaged the jersey and he showed it off and he put it on, and all of that, went through the whole shebang. And again, you're entitled to your own feelings. I can, just like you probably can't tell me how to be a fan, I can't tell you. But there's something that bothers me about people who will go even as far, and still claim to be a Falcon fan, to go as far as to buy the other team's jersey that the player left on. And I don't care whether you're Deion Sanders. I don't care whether you're Mike Vick. I don't care if you're Julio Jones. To me, that's just a sacred place to go if you're really invested in the Atlanta Falcons as a fan. Again, I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money. If you want to spend your money on buying an enemy's jersey or something like that, or buying a team that we eventually have to play, that's fine. But I just think it's kind of weird that you would do that. That to me, that's strange. What's going on, 95 North Falcons Talk Show? How you doing today? 3 players you named. Marlon Davidson, absolutely somebody that's gonna have to rise up and no pun intended, and get his game together. He had the one little pick six play, the 1 yard pick six against Tom Brady. But quite honestly, other than that, we haven't got a lot out of him. He's still very young. I do realize this is only his 3rd year, but we still need a lot out of him. Jalen Mayfield, by far, is someone, again, I'm willing to give him a little leeway as well. Remember, folks, this is a rookie. Arthur Smith warned us at the beginning of the year. It seems like everybody gets amnesia with that. When he put him out there, he said that he was probably going to be baptized his first time out. Those are his exact words. Go back and find it. When he gets out there. And he was. We were hoping it wouldn't be as bad as it was. But yeah, you kind of hope that he would at least show up a little bit. And Richie Grant, who did not get a lot of playing time at the beginning of the year, seemed like near the end of the year, Dean Pease allowed him to get in there. Now, I don't know whether that was because he wasn't picking it up. I know he couldn't have thought Eric Harris was a better option at the time. Maybe so, because he was a veteran. But yes, it would be nice to see Richie Grant be able to step his game up and do it. Those are 3 very good names that you got out there. Hi, Lisa. How you doing? Rise up to you. Lisa also says, I see you're just getting started with this topic. As for me, my support for active players that go to other teams once they're no longer playing for the Falcons. I wish them well, but I am not buying another team's jersey. No way. And then goes on to say, like, who are those folks going to rep when we play the Colts in 2023? Again, Lisa, it's one of those things, and it's not even fair that I even involve you in this talk, because you're on a whole different level as far as I'm concerned. As far as a fan, I know where you stand. You don't ever have to prove anything to me, but you said something very profound in that last statement. You said, for me, my support for active players that go to other teams once they're no longer playing for the Falcons. Listen, when Austin Hooper left, I kind of figured that he would get outpriced and go somewhere else. Not because, we just had a lot of money to deal. I just thought, yeah, it's probably not worth the money. And I don't think I would have paid $10 million for Austin Hooper. I think Austin Hooper is good, but I don't think he's that great. Loved him when he was here. I'm not putting any Cincinnati gear on because he was a good player. And to be honest with you, I'm going to get to the biggest example of that. But I just don't think I was invested in Hooper when he was here. But when he leaves, that's over. It doesn't make any sense. Hey, Brianne, how are you? Good to see you joining us. Say the line drawn after the player is no longer on the team wearing the team colors. I agree with that. I'm a fan of the franchise and not the individual. And this is not even to say that you might not be a fan of Julio Jones or Austin Hooper or Duke Riley. I'm just joking. But if you're a fan of the Atlanta Falcons, if you're an entrenched fan of the Atlanta Falcons, the last thing you're thinking about is trying to buy a jersey for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I don't know what the whole thing was with the Falcoholic. I know that a couple of people resigned and everything because Matt Ryan left and blah, 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 because they were upset that the Falcons made that move. And look, I know for some of you that hold on to the Matt Ryan, whatever you want to call it, aura or something, that's fine. But it was getting to a time where it might have been time for him to go. Not because he doesn't have any skill left, but it was kind of stale at the moment. And when he leaves, he leaves. Now, the first thing I'm pretty sure somebody's going to come back and say, well, how did you feel about Mike Vick? Because I know they see, unfortunately, they probably see my skin color and think I was holding the flame for Mike Vick when he got in his trouble and got out of jail. When Mike Vick left the Atlanta Falcons, Mike Vick, I was done with Mike Vick as a Falcon fan. As a Falcon fan, Mike Vick didn't have anything to do with the Atlanta Falcons going forward on the field. Now, it's good that he, later on in time heals all wounds, all the things that went on and stuff like that. And you hear even Mike Vick himself say he put himself in those situations and things like that. But there were some fans here that were buying Philadelphia Eagle jerseys. That the game that Mike Vick came back to, when he came back to the stadium as an Eagle, and we beat them, and I'm trying to think, that was a Sunday night game or a Monday night game. I can't remember what it was. And I think I've told this story before. My family was there. We happened to have a little booth up there this time because there was a whole bunch of us. We were in a group. And next to us was a box with Snoop Dogg. This, D-O-G-G, Snoop Dogg. And he had his Mike Vick jersey on. And I don't, whatever. Snoop is not from Atlanta, so I'm not whatever. But as I look down into the crowd, all of the Eagles, number 7 going on. And I don't think all those people were from Philadelphia. I think a lot of those people were just, riders and people that might have been upset because they did him wrong, even though Mike Vick will tell you to this day he did himself wrong. But he left. And I say he left, not by his own will. I mean, you know the story. But he was gone. And when he left, and in 2008, Matt Ryan came in, guess what? I was all into Matt Ryan. And Matt Ryan is the man going forward. So you can't hold on. Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders, contrary to belief, a lot of people think, who probably didn't look back in time, Deion Sanders was only here for about 6 years, 5 years, 6 years. I have to double check. Wasn't here that long. And I understand, because don't get me, with Mike Vick, with Deion Sanders, there came a little bit of, there was definitely a different level of excitement going on. We were having a whole discussion about this, I think, last week when we were talking about the swag of the 1991 team. I was in the military at the time in the state of Washington, and one of the few Atlanta Falcon fans there. But you'll be surprised at some of the groundswell that the Atlanta Falcons were getting, because it was a different energy when Prime was there. And it saturated throughout the organization, and a lot of folks were into that. But once Prime left and went to San Francisco, I mean, and people, you got to remember, back in 1991, to go to, well, it wasn't 91 when he left. I think it was it 91 or 92? Or whatever year it was. Whatever year it was that he left, he went to the bitter rival. And at that time, yes, New Orleans was still our rival, but San Francisco was the slap us around rival. At that time, the 49ers were just slapping us all around the place back then. So you went to that team, and there were still people here talking about, I'm going to root for Deion? I'm happy for Deion as an individual, but I'm not giving him any support on the team that we're going against, the team that, again, is beating us up. No. So he doesn't get my love. So even when you go Way back, I think about Gerald Riggs, and I know I'm getting old. I'm getting ready to come back to the future. Gerald Riggs, who was a really good runner here. As a matter of fact, um, for a long time was, and he still might be. I need to double check that. The biggest franchise rusher. I think he still might be. While I'm doing that, career single season. Yeah, I'm gonna look this up. But anyway, yeah, that was another one. And he went to at the time the Redskins. Yeah, that's a big deal. So yeah, I just want to see how people feel about that. I'm down with wishing someone well. I don't want Matt Ryan to fall flat on his face unless he's playing the Falcons. But at the same time, man, come on now. I can't sit here and just root for him like that. Hey, what's going on, man? What we cooking today? We cooking. Hey, man. Well, online we cooking up the topic of rooting for your former team. I wish I was on that grill today. But Dondre, what's going on, brother? I haven't seen you in a minute, man. Hope everything is going well for you. What the topic was to say was, where do you draw the line on supporting former Falcon players during the season? Now, of course, this year we lost 2 Atlanta Falcons that were prominent last year. Not by no means our legendary Falcons, but when you start talking about Foye Oluokun, who went to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Russell Gage, who I think ended up being our leading receiver last year, going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that's significant that those guys left and went to another team, though they were major players on this team last year. Do I go buy a Russell Gage jersey in honor of him, leaving us in the dirt? No. I'm not doing that. Foye Oluokun, who was probably next to AJ and Grady, the best defensive player on the team, just easy to say, being the best on a horrible defense. But yeah, happy he got his money, but I don't think I'm going to follow him all season. I'm not. So when you start talking about fandom, man, I once they leave the Falcons, I mean, it's basically over for me. Julio Jones, all-time receiver, first ballot Hall of Famer. Great memories of Julio. Still thinking about him running down the field against Carolina for 300 yards. Still thinking about him pretty much clinching the NFC Championship game against Green Bay on that 73-yard touchdown. All of that is cool. But once they leave Atlanta, my concern is not as big for them anymore. As great as Julio is, I can't sit here and buy a Tennessee Titan jersey. So when I saw this guy do this online, and listen, I know sometimes we do things to get attention, and sometimes we try to stir things up because we want to be different and all that stuff like that. But I was like, how dare you represent yourself as an Atlanta fan and gonna sit there and make a big production about buying a jersey? What a pump move. I mean, I just don't get that. It's kind of dumb to me. Dre says, I can't support Matty until he comes back to retire as a Falcon in the Ring of Honor. Just my take. It makes sense. It makes sense. He is an all-time Atlanta great, but in 2022, I want them to tear his behind up because he's not playing for my team. So I don't understand where that comes from. RJ, what's going on, brother? We're sitting here talking about former players leaving your team and do you still support them even though they're not on your team? 95 North comes back and says, current players that leave the Falcons, I wish them well, will not buy a jersey of a different team. Now, I have a softer spot for the vets who made us fans to begin with. Sanders, Roddy, and TT, I'm trying to think who you're talking about. Todd Gurley? I hear what you're saying, and you're right. There's always going to be a soft spot for Dion, Roddy, or whatever. I just don't think I'm going to go as far as buying their jersey. I don't think I'm going to go as far as make a big production out of, here, y'all, I'm putting this in your face because I'm mad Matt Ryan's gone and I hope he goes to the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, I'm not that guy. No, I don't want Matt Ryan to win the Super Bowl. Do I think Matt Ryan gets sometimes a bad rap? Absolutely he did. Wasn't all his fault the last 4 years. But I'm not going to sit here and pom-pom him through the Super Bowl. That's ridiculous. Dre says those players are like an ex-girlfriend. Do you talk to your ex after a bad breakup? That's a fair analogy. That's an absolute fair analogy. Rusty, what's going on, my friends? They just joined, so I'm late, but Roddy is a real one. I'm by no means going to go out and buy a Matt Ryan Colts jersey, but if they're in the playoffs and we are not, I will pull for Matt. And I won't even mind the pull for Matt part. That might be different. If we don't make the playoffs and Matt Ryan happens to be there and they're going against, I don't know, Pittsburgh or something like that, yeah, the familiarity of seeing Matt Ryan might make me a little nostalgic. I don't want to pretend like that wouldn't kick in. But I'm not rooting for him. And I dang sure ain't buying a jersey of him. To me, if that's anything, that's kind of weak. Not even kind of weak. And I know what it is. And I'm not going to get super heavy on this. Hold on. Dre says, Steve, do we make a run at Terry from the Redskins? He seems unhappy. Just saying. I think right now, Dre, we take the 70 wide receivers we have on the roster and just pare it down to the best 6 or 7 that we can do. I think taking on any kind of potential big money for next year, and that's what you're going to do, because Terry's not going to take a trade unless he's going to get paid. And that's for sure. So I just don't think that's the right thing to do. But as far as the Matt Ryan thing, it's simple for a lot of these people who the reason why their fandom is with Matt Ryan. And not even the fandom is with Matt Ryan, but while they are doing this. When Mike Vick was convicted and Mike Vick eventually went to jail, there are a lot of folks with in my opinion, misinformed thought that Mike Vick was done wrong. Mike Vick to this day comes back and says, if you go watch any interview, go watch any documentary, go watch anything you see, there is no part in any documentary does Mike Vick say the Falcons didn't have his back, the Falcons let me down, the Falcons did this. If anything, he has a whole narrative where he thanks them and apologizes to the franchise for the stuff he put them through. I have yet to see anything where Mike Vick has gone out and said, it is the Atlanta Falcons' fault that I'm sitting here in penitentiary. But we know how sometimes our fans are. There was a narrative that, they didn't look out for him. They didn't do what they were supposed to do for him. They wasn't looking out for the brother. They let him hang out there. They just let him go to jail. Arthur Blank didn't care about him, which was all BS. They gave him plenty of opportunity to speak up, and he didn't. So I fast forward to 2008. Matt Ryan came in. He took over for an extremely popular quarterback. There were still people in the Mike Vick camp, as far as fans are concerned, fans that could not stomach seeing anybody else at that quarterback position. So Mike Vick comes along, comes back. Soon as he's released from jail, a lot of people will bring Mike Vick back. He didn't do anything. Who cares about dog fighting? I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying. Bring him back. And the Falcons are like, no, we've moved on. Matt Ryan is in the middle of a winning season. Matt Ryan, it looks like he's going to be the future, so we're going to stick with him. And you still had a great bit of people, trust me, from being a longtime season ticket holder, that folks were still wearing number 7 jerseys in support of Mike Vick. Now, there are also people that wear number 7 jersey because you paid $100 for that jersey. You're going to wear it. I get that part. But there are also a lot of people that were sitting there just wearing that because they felt like the Falcons let them down. Let Mike Vick down, which again is so far from the truth. So fast forward to 2022 in March. Falcons go after Deshaun Watson. Glad that didn't work out. And then afterwards, Matt Ryan had to make a decision and say, you know what? I think I want out, fellas. Y'all show me where your mind is. And to the chagrin of many folks in Atlanta who couldn't see the writing on the wall after 14 years, especially the last 4, they were shocked that how dare the Atlanta Falcons let go of the greatest franchise quarterback in history. How dare they let go of the all-time leading yards thrower in history? And people were ticked off about that. And there are some people that still to this day, even 2 months later, was it 2 months or 3 months? 3 months later, are upset. Again, the exodus of the Falcoholic people who left. Pissed off. Because they dare let go of the pillar of the organization. Never did anything wrong. Never made the Falcons look bad off the field. How dare they let him go after 14 years and losing for the last 4? Because the 5th year was going to be the year. And I think some of those folks who do this now are probably saying, oh, well, this is our chance to get y'all back. Some of y'all Vic fans who did it, so we gonna do it. And I think that's where this guy that I saw online that was making a big deal about buying this jersey, which again, I pretends to be a Falcon fan, and I'm not even gonna have the whatever to put his name out there because I just that would be giving him more love. But I just think it's ridiculous to fancy yourself as a Falcon fan, yet go out and buy, albeit an extremely cheap looking Colts jersey with Matt Ryan on it. So I don't know. Just ridiculous. Let me get back to these comments. Dre says, Steve, do you think it's crazy that we can finish second in the South? Not at all. The South is not that strong this year. I'm not ready to, between Carolina and the Saints, I'm not sure that they, I'm not sure either one of those teams are going to be super strong. This is not the old Saints. And trust me, more than Drew Brees leaving, Sean Payton leaving is going to be a huge deal. Don't underestimate that. Brother Armani, how you doing, sir? Said the only time I really supported another player in another uniform was Vic returned to Atlanta for the first time in the Eagles uniform. I spoke about that right probably before you came in with that, Armani. I was at that game that they came in. The Eagles came in when Mike Vick was quarterbacking, and I do remember the abundance of Vic jerseys with number 7, and a lot of those folks were Atlanta Falcon fans. Don't let them fool you. Rusty says, I went to high school with Tajay Sharp, so I hope he has a good career. But yeah, as far as rooting for former Falcons, nah. I usually unfollow former Falcons on social media after they leave on the team. Only Falcons I follow to this day are Tajay Sharp, Matt, and Julio. And again, social media might be a little bit different. I hey, you want to follow them and see what they're doing day to day. That's a little bit different to me, quite honestly, than, like in public. If there was anybody, and I saw a couple of idiots out there last year, yes, I called them idiots, that came out to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium with Tennessee Julio Jones jerseys. I just say to myself, so what's your point? You're in Atlanta. You're in Atlanta. And people do that. It's just almost the same way you see, trolls of Tom Brady. They come to the Mercedes-Benz and they still wear Tom Brady jersey. You know why they do that. 28-3, ha, 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 get a bit laugh, start up a junk, get into a beer fight, all that good stuff. They don't have any good intentions. But a little bit different on the social media, Rusty. I can understand if you still follow them from that. But yeah, to your and a little bit different with the Tajay Sharp thing. If somebody you know personally, it's a little bit different. Yeah, that's different. I'm not expecting you to end childhood friendship over professional sports. Daniel says, Steve, you better not be talking about me. Ryan is my dude. You know this. You know there's nothing wrong with supporting a favorite player of yours. And actually, Daniel, I know you support him very well. I wasn't talking about you per se. You're not. Well, actually, not even per se. You're not the person I'm talking about. You have always been upfront about that when we first met. So I don't take that away from you. And I don't think you're going to actually jump ship from the Falcons per se. I know you're a big Matt fan, but I'm talking about those people who do it just to do it. Who don't have anything else to do but to buy a jersey just to stir up mess. I just think that's crazy. Brother Anthony, how you doing, sir? Man, when I see people pissed off and literally crying about the man trade, made me shake my head. Look, but see, Anthony, and that stuff is real, man. And again, if you hearken back to 2007, when it was a similar situation with Vic, even though Vic did this to himself, you got to put things in perspective. Matt didn't do this to himself. Well, some people will say his play did it to him. But Mike Vick, to a man, will tell you that was self-inflicted. Everything that came after that was self-inflicted. Even when he had the opportunity to be truthful about what's going on, he decided to not be upfront. So he'll tell you himself that those were things he did that did not fare well for him. The Matt Ryan thing, I think this was just a case that it had played its course. It had already played itself out. So, different situation. Daniel says, Matt is my favorite quarterback. Of course, yeah, Daniel, I knew that. You might be the exception to the rule, Daniel. You might be the one exception to the rule. My brother Smitty, what's going on? Y'all make sure if you're on YouTube or if you're not on YouTube but on Facebook to please go subscribe along with Uncle Steve's Lounge to Smitty's Sports Machine. Smitty got nuggets 2-3 times a day sometimes. Always talking about all kinds of sports. Make sure you check him out if you did. I said, oh, do I need to bring you some water? Look, man, hey, Smitty, I'm sitting up here on this QT thing, drinking this diet soda I'm not supposed to be drinking a lot of, but I do a lot of stuff I'm not supposed to. I'm trying to get these to talk about this fandom. The question for some of those of you who are coming in: where do you draw the line on supporting former Falcons during the season? And I brought up Matt Ryan, and Smitty, you already know who I'm talking about. I'm trying not to put his name out there, of the person who made the big tada about putting a jersey, buying a Matt Ryan jersey from Indianapolis and things like that. And again, I'm just not down with the fakeness. You know, pick a side and stay on the side. I'm not trying to tell you you can't say, hey, Matt, I hope you do good this game, but don't act like the Atlanta Falcons did him great. I tell you what, if Matt Ryan had a much better 2021, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. He had a okay 2020. Matt Ryan, aside of yards, and you gotta, I know he was throwing the crap and stuff like that. Matt did not have one of his greatest campaigns last year. If Matt Ryan has an average Matt Ryan year in 2021, we're probably not even in this conversation. But you add up the factors of 36 years old, we just brought in a new GM and a new head coach. I mean, the writing was on the wall. Even the Ice Cubes probably were like, Daddy, time to go. Because Terry and Arthur were ready to put their fingerprint on this franchise. Think about it. When Thomas Dimitroff came here, he came with the luxury of, I get to not only choose my quarterback, but I kind of get to build this team my way. Last year, when you think about what Terry and Arthur came into, they had a disgruntled Julio Jones. They had Matt Ryan, who was counting over $40 million at the time before they restructured, was counting for $40 million towards the cap. And unbeknownst to them, you had a Let It Ride Ridley betting against the Falcons, betting for the Falcons in games. That was going to cost you later on. I apologize. Mental breakdown. However y'all want to put it. But think about all of that stuff that they had to deal with coming into it. So they came into a situation much different than Dimitroff did. So, and that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask, but I'm going to say that for another day about Arthur Smith. How much time do you truly give him? And I don't want to stray away from the subject today, because when you think about it, even though last year was his first year as head coach, I think last year, in my mind, mentally, is a voidable year. Because you had elements that you had to deal with that were beyond your control. You inherited Matt. You inherited a disgruntled Julio. You inherited a cash 3, cash 4 Ridley. And you didn't know all this stuff. So now this year, albeit, listen, we hope and pray that somewhere between the Mariota Ritter thing, the quarterback gets decided, but that's still no guarantee. We hope it does. I hope Ritter ends up taking this job and looking like the prospect we think he is. But there's no guarantee. So last year, to me, even though Arthur Smith was down on the field. I think last year, none of that counts for me. I think I judge him from starting today, starting this year, starting this camp, because this wasn't his team. This was Matt's team. This was Matt Ryan's team. Even though you got a new GM, you got a new head coach, this was Matt Ryan's team in 2021. By far, today, this is Arthur Smith's team. Yes, Grady is a star. AJ is rising. Kyle Pitts is rising. This is Arthur Smith's team. There are no big-time vets to worry about ego-wise. So, yeah. Wallace, what's going on, man? How you doing? Glad to join us on Uncle Steve's Lounge, man. Please tell your friends. Make sure y'all subscribe to Uncle Steve's Lounge. I appreciate that. Yeah, he says that Falsar says they think these are the 2010 Falcons. It's very much a new team. Absolutely, it is. Daniel says, I have a Ryan's coat jersey because he's one of my favorite players of all time, and I'm a diehard Falcon fan, and I've never been a bandwagon and never will be. Daniel, here's the difference. Daniel, I don't think you're going to be unwise enough to come into a group where you're supposed to be supporting the Falcons and show off a Colts jersey and shine saying a Colts jersey. I don't think you're going to be foolish enough to do that. That's why I say. Lisa said, is that post in the group? I didn't see it. I'm trying to. Oh, you're talking about as far as the jersey? No. If you're talking about the jersey thing, it's on YouTube. It's a semi popular guy on YouTube who did the jersey thing. Smithy says it's okay to keep being a fan, just don't root against your team. And I think that's the thing that's the really the underlying thing here. Just don't forget who your team is. But there's something to me. When Julio left last year, greatest Falcon receiver of all time, no doubt, not even an argument. I know, in fairness, all due respect to Roddy White. But when Julio left, as you know, it's a little sad because dude has been big for us. My first thought wasn't, oh my God, Julio's left. Well, let me run down to Nashville and run up to Nashville and go grab a 11 jersey because I love him. And you can, I'm not telling you who to like and who not to like. I'm not telling you that. But as a Falcon fan, my first thought is, who's next? And we thought it was Riverboat Ridley, but it's not. You know, I'm not that person. And again, I can't get into other people's mind. I can't make you feel a certain way. But when Julio leaves, my thought is, who's the next person up? That's Steve. That might not be you. Anthony says, I remember meeting Vic in 2003 for New Orleans at the casino when he had the broken ankle. He was a very immature 21-year-old with that entourage that helped take him down. I told my wife this would be his fall to grace. And Anthony, if you ever watch any documentary, any interview where he talks about those days, for all those folks that say the Falcons did him wrong, Mike Vick to a man tells everyone, I screwed up. I messed that up. Arthur Blank did nothing but show me love. But there is this narrative around that. There was this narrative at the time that Falcons didn't look out for him. Like the Falcons were going to co-sign with dogfighting. I mean, long story, but you're right. You're absolutely right. My wife always brings up the little video that they were showing during the time when Mike Vick. Remember, prior to the dogfighting thing, he had the little airport incident where they found the weed with him, and that kind of disappeared. And there was this little cut as he's walking down the atrium in the airport where he turns around and the reporter was talking to him, and he's like, I'm Mike Vick. I'm Mike Vick, like talking to himself in third person, like he can't be touched or whatever. And that's kind of the attitude you were talking about to me, Anthony. That's what it seems like. Rusty says, I know who you're talking about. John Harris went out and bought a Miami Lions Colts jersey. Rusty, if it's something in life that I can count on, whether Matt Ryan was here or not, is John Harris won't be spending any money on Matt Ryan. I can guarantee you that. Oh, man. Lisa says, let it ride, Ridley. Hey, man. Daniel says, the only time I won't support Matt is when he plays us. And that's fair. That's fair. 95 North says, how would you grade Arthur Smith and Terry so far? It's almost like one of those things where, again, I think 2021 was so turbulent as far as we haven't had that much noise. And when I say noise, I'm talking about Ridley, Jones. Ryan wasn't part of it last offseason, but, just a lot of new faces. And quite honestly, the salary cap. We inherited this WIC card salary cap that we couldn't do anything with. So there was no way for us to improve the team. When Ridley goes down, you can't go get a free agent because you got insufficient funds in the ATM. You can't get anything. So what is Terry and Arthur supposed to do with that? They all of a sudden, you trade away Julio Jones, that's going to be a hit. So I feel like this year, finally, you're going to get the opportunity to do some of the things. I think our salary cap now is about $13 million, if I think at the last check right now. So, hey, let's judge them going forward because it's fair right now. So when I say grade, when you ask grade at this moment, I probably have to give it an incomplete right now. And I know that's a cop-out. I know it sounds like a cop-out, but it really isn't. This year, you got to bring Mariota in as a free agent. You got to choose Ritter as your quarterback. Now, the only thing is 95 that I will grade is the Kyle Pitts pick. Now, Kyle Pitts could be, I don't know, the greatest tight end in the history of the NFL, but I still, as a general manager, would never, ever pick a tight end at number 4. I can't. I hope Kyle ends up being all of that, breaks every record, whatever. But you don't draft a tight end at 4. Anthony says, cash 3, cash 4, really? Hey, man. I'm sorry, it is what it is. Daniel says, we better keep that boy A.J. Terrell in the ATL. Oh, don't worry. Listen, this year, I think Terry he's getting ready to line some things up. Listen, not only A.J., Lindstrom is coming before A.J. You got to start thinking about what you're going to do for that. So you have some other things on the plate. And when you start thinking about long-term contracts, I mean, really, you just redid Grady. You just did Jake. Lindstrom is really the next guy coming up. You did Youngway. So there's not a whole lot. Now, still got a long way to go. But we'll see. Star says, yes, he gets a mulligan for that first year in AB's eye. Yeah, to me, he does. Like I said again, I can understand the argument to say he's a coach no matter what. You got to coach what you have on the field. But I honestly think he should get a mulligan, in my opinion. What's up, Devontae? How you doing, man? Thanks for joining us on Uncle Steve's Lounge. Appreciate that. 95 says that's a valid point. Thank you, sir. Daniel says I'm not that idiotic, and I know you're not, brother. That's why I never even mentioned your name. I got you. Lisa says, okay, I got it. I won't look for it on YouTube. LOL. Lisa, I get a chance. I'll let you know in the background because I don't even want to give the person any love because I think it's just, I don't know. To me, it's kind of, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? You're thirsty. You know what I mean? When you start, if you're allegedly a big Falcon fan and you're almost making a big mockery out of, I got this jersey, look at this, but I'm a Falcon fan. Look at my Matt Ryan. I love him to death, but it doesn't add up. You can have fandom for Matt Ryan all day, which is fine, but then don't. There were some things also that when the video was going on that kind of reverted back to the Mike Vick thing, which again, if you read between the lines, if you're a grown person, you kind of get where they were going. We did this because Vic did that. Okay, I know why you did it then, and I don't want to get into all of that. False Star says Riverboat Ridley. He down at the juke joint, gambling again. Oh man. Antonio says, I'm not gonna cheer nor hate on them. I'm still gonna wear my Atlanta jerseys with their name on it. Oh man. Cortez says, I don't give a damn. I'm gonna buy every Colts Matt Ryan jersey I can find. Forget our front office. But Cortez, but again, you're entitled to your opinion, my brother. Do what you're gonna do. But if your response to not liking the front office is buying a jersey for Matt Ryan, then you got some other stuff. You got some other stuff. You got some other stuff to think about. To me, my opinion. But do what you want to do. It's your money. You want to waste it on I say waste it. You want to support Matt Ryan doing that, that's fine. But that don't have anything to do with it. I mean, and you think about the correlation of what you're saying. You're going to buy every Matt Ryan jersey because the front office who hadn't even been in there a whole year. Come on, man. That don't even make sense. Smitty says, what's going to happen with Deion Jones? Trade him or play his final year and get nothing for him? I think once he recovers from surgery, he's gone. There are a couple of ways I can think about this, Smitty. And I'm one of the people that I'm not quite done with Debo yet. To me, I know everybody has already had him. Look, there are a lot of people that had Grady gone already. Maybe when he's finished with his injury, maybe he might restructure something down the line to make his contract a little easier. I don't know. I don't think you've already kind of you already just gave away one guy in Matt Ryan for some for nothing, for a third round pick. So I'm sorry, y'all. Talking to my wife. You've already given away a less value. Not given away. You got back less value for Matt Ryan. You can't just give Deion away just to give him away. I think Deion can still be valuable with the young team you had. This is a very young defense. And though Deion didn't have his greatest year last year, I still think he has something to offer. I still think he does. This is me. I'm not ready to give him away right now. Wallace say, but you draft the best player available no matter what the position they play. Listen, and I understand that, Wallace, and I'm not saying that you don't. But a tight end, I don't know. I don't know. There has never been a higher tight end drafted So this would be now 5 years from now, we can't get into the DeLorean and go back to the future and see what happens. But if he turns out to be the all-time tight end guy, maybe. I just don't see it. And this is a fan talking. This is not Steve the Falcon scout. This is not Steve the player expert in tight end analytics. I've just never seen anybody draft a tight end that high. And I think if you're number 4 and you have an aging quarterback on the team, you should have went quarterback. But again, that's an argument for last year. It's done. But that's just me. Cortez says Kyle Pitts isn't a route runner. Okay. Tidy says, sorry I'm late. What video are we speaking on? There was a video, Tidy, and the topic today was where do you draw the line on supporting former Falcon players during the season. There's a video out there on YouTube where this guy who's allegedly is this big Atlanta sports fan, allegedly, and he goes out and he goes through this whole video of unboxing this extremely cheap looking Greenbrier flea market looking jersey, which I almost want to see where he bought it from because he needs his money back. But anyway, he went through this whole unpacking video of him wearing the jersey and putting it on and kind of like, yeah, this is Matt, this is the guy, this is the greatest guy. I'm not trying to kill the fandom for Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan did a lot of great things, but I'm not about to sit here and show, this jersey like it being an Atlanta Falcon fan. I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like he's the greatest guy and I'm going to support him every time. That's not it. Lisa says, geez, man, Mike Vick's been gone since 2008. And in a lot of people's hearts, Lisa, he never left. And I know you were there that last game in the Georgia Dome, the last regular season game, when he and Roddy rode in the back of that car, and you hadn't heard an ovation like that in the Dome. Dare I say, I know we were talking a lot about loud moments in the Georgia Dome when they were bringing out all the former Falcons during halftime for the Georgia Dome closing. When Roddy and Mike were on the back of that car, that place exploded. And you still heard feints of boos out there for those who just can't forgive what happened to a dog. The ovation was deafening. And I know a lot was for Roddy, but that was for Mike, because that was the first time Mike was coming back repping the Falcons. Before, the Eagles thing and all of that. But this was his first time coming back to say, thank you, Falcon fans. That I'll never forget that. That was crazy. Matter of fact, that halftime almost lasted so long, the Falcons almost lost that game of 31-10. Daniel says Dion will be here. The injury hurts trade value. That's my thought. And Dion might be willing to play ball. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Javinci says, I ain't wearing nothing that doesn't say Atlanta Falcons on it, period. I'm a Falcon fan. Brother, you are a Falcon fan, and I applaud you for that. Makes a lot of sense. Wallace says, but once the player's gone from the team, it's time to move on to support the players still on the team. And we wish them well with their next team. And that's cool. I don't have a problem with saying, hey, Julio, thanks. Good luck. in general with Tennessee. Don't expect me to root for you when you play us, or sometimes otherwise. I wasn't rooting for Austin Hooper. I won't be rooting for Foye Oluokun when they play against us. I'm definitely not rooting for Russell Gage. So, I mean, yeah, to your point, it kind of ends. Daniel said Debo played hurt, man. I believe that. He probably did. Toddy says, I'm with you, Javinci. I don't own no other team's jersey but the Falcons and don't plan on buying any other team's jersey. If you want to be a Matt fanboy, buy those Falcons Ryan jerseys that are on clearance right now. Hey, and actually, they had some at Walmart. They had some of those T-shirts. So you actually got some pretty good T-shirts that were on sale. Now, I don't know if they're still there. I know they were still, showing up. I'm trying to scroll down to here. Thank y'all for the comments today. Appreciate it. Wallace says, but the tight end Davis was drafted by the 49ers with the 6th pick in the draft. But at least that was 6. And when they drafted Vernon Davis, if I'm not mistaken, I think they already had some decent, even though they were picking high, I'm not sure that was actually because Frisco was sucking that year. Now, I got to double check that. But I think somebody brought that up one time before, and that was more like a double check that for me, somebody. I know Tidy's on here. Double check that for me and see if that's true. But even so, and I'm sorry, Wallace. We're just going to agree to disagree. I just don't think tight end is a position that you pick. Think about it now. Contrary to what you're saying about whether it's Vernon Davis, whether it's Kyle Pitts. Think about the big-time tight ends in the game. You don't see anybody picked in the top 5. Rarely, maybe in the top. Was Hawkins top 10? If he was the bottom top 10. Kittle, Kelsey? I don't know. I don't know, and I really don't. But I just don't think that's and again, that's fan Steve. This is not analyst scouting Steve. I don't know, don't care from the analytic part. I just know I just normally don't see tight ends go that high. I see tight ends get drafted middle first round and get developed into a pretty good receiver. But I don't know. Cortez says, nah, it's the fact of how his release went down. We tried for a quarterback that we don't even know is going to be eligible to play this year and wanted more money than Matt, and we don't even get him. We lose our Hall of Fame quarterback and only got a 3rd-round pick. Ain't that idiotic? I don't know what it is. Here's the thing about that, Cortez, and I can understand not being happy about that. 2 things. 1, we didn't get him, so what? 2, when we were in the process of getting it, so again, you want to get in the DeLorean from Back to the Future and go ahead and see what's going to happen. There was nobody at that time, because remember, all the charges, the criminal charges, went through the grand jury. They said nobody was going to get charged criminally. Nobody knew they were going to come out with these 2 extra women that came out and accused him of stuff. Nobody was going to know that there was going to be a report talking about 66 times, 66 appointments. Nobody knew all this, including you. So at the time when we were making that move, and add on to that, nobody also knew the Cleveland Browns were going to pay him $230 million guaranteed. Nobody knew that, including you. So for us to sit back and play Monday morning quarterback on things we don't know about, all we knew at the time that Deshaun Watson before last year, before 2021, was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, talent-wise. So it's kind of hard to go back and play that game. Yes, I understand. It blew up. and we ended up getting rid of Matt. Let me ask you a question. You say we lose our Hall of Fame quarterback. Do you actually think Matt Ryan was going to be here past 2022 anyway? His 2023 year was voidable. He wasn't going to be here in 2023 with a new GM and a new head coach that's watching the Hall of Fame quarterback. And I'm not saying that's all his fault. But watch the Hall of Fame quarterback lead a team that's 7-9, 7-9, 4-12. I don't know what else you want. And again, I get it. People are going to be upset about that, but you can't play. You can't play Monday morning quarterback on that one. You can't go back. You don't get the right to go back and say, "Oh, see, I knew this was going to happen." That's a lie. None of us knew these extra things were going to come up. Nobody did. Tiny said, "Is it that guy who used to write for the Falcoholic and quit once Matt was traded?" No, it wasn't. I told Lisa I'll send y'all the video. I'll send y'all the video and show it to you. He's kind of an interesting guy. 95 Smitty Sports Machine talking about 95 North, giving him some love. Javinci says you can't be a big Atlanta Falcon fan wearing a Colts jersey. He may be a big Matt Ryan fan, but definitely not a big Falcon fan. And I think that's the thing that bothers me, because as a huge Atlanta Falcon fan, as I will date myself back to the Steve Bartkowski, the Chris Miller, the June Jones, the Dave Archer, the Bobby Hebert, the Billy Joe Tolliver, the Jeff George, the Chris Chandler. This franchise has had so many folks that I had to turn my back on because they weren't Falcons. Steve Bartkowski left, so move on. Chris Miller left, so Jeff George. Yeah, Jeff George, that didn't even count. Bobby Hebert went to New Orleans. Who cares? Chris Chandler, he retired. Who cares? Mike Vick went to Philly. The one thing that stayed same the past 40 plus years of fandom is I'm an Atlanta Falcon, man. Atlanta Falcon fan all the way. That doesn't stop. Rusty says, I'm not sure when Terry and Arthur took this job, they knew about Julio being disgruntled or not. But I think part of the reasoning with drafting KP when we did is that they planned on him being on the field with Ridley and Julio. That would have been dangerous. It did not work out that way. Now, that could be true, Rusty. And to Wallace's point when you started talking about the BPA, if you remember, and I think I was talking to somebody about that last week, they already had put out the little poster with Julio, Ridley, and Pitts right after Pitts was drafted. So to your point, that does actually make a lot of sense when you think about that. Cortez says, bruh, he's the greatest quarterback the Falcons have seen. Who said he wasn't? Who said he wasn't? See, I think you're getting stuck in even if he was the best quarterback in history, so what? Tom Brady is the best quarterback in the NFL history. And New England let him go. Because New England said it's time to move on to a different page. That man brought them rings. Nobody knew who New England was. New England was the Falcons before Brady got there. New England went to the Super Bowl and got drugged by the Bears. That's what people remember. They remember long neck Steve Grogan and getting destroyed in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady comes along, wins 6 Super Bowls, make them perennial AFC East winners every year. Championship game, I don't probably got to be more than 10, had the opportunity to keep him. And he left. And they seemed to be fine last year. I know you had the Cam year, but they seem to be fine. Life goes on, man. Nobody's arguing Matt Ryan's place in history. Matt Ryan arguably is the best Falcon ever. But that still doesn't mean you can't move on. I mean, that's, I don't know. Lisa says, my thing is, if you're a Colts fan now, just say that. How are you going to claim the Falcons, but you're in a Colts jersey? The jersey is not jerseying. Hashtag your team doesn't match. See, that's I'm going to pin that. That's actually really good. Toddy says, somebody tell Cortez Glenn they were looking to move past Ryan regardless of the Watson stuff. The writing was on the wall when the new coach and GM came. Coach Smith and Ryan argued a lot on camera last year. It was just time. It's okay to be upset about it, but by now, you should have moved on. He couldn't play here forever. He gave us some great time, but it was simply time. And you know, listen, Cortez seems to be a strong fan, and I don't take that away from him. You know, more power to you. I've seen you plenty of times, Cortez. I don't blame you for maybe being upset, but did you actually think Matt Ryan was going to be here past 2022? If you remember the circumstances in 2021, remember the Falcons couldn't move on from Matt Ryan. They were over the salary cap. Julio, we found out later. I'm sorry about that, Mike. Julio, we found out later, didn't want to restructure. And so it was all on Matt. I'm pretty sure Matt Ryan wasn't exactly thrilled about restructuring. He's coming to the end of his career. He's not going to feel like moving all that money and doing what I'm sure he's saying, I'd rather have some longevity near the end. When they restructure those contracts, most of the time when you hear restructured contracts, there is a slight chance that you get to the end of them. And while they bring the money forward and give it all to you at the moment, you're thinking about the long game. The long game is, hey, I want to have some guaranteed money 4 years from now. It's nice that you're paying me out now, but I want the long game. But Cortez, you got to think about it, brother. Matt wasn't going to be here past 2022. And to Tidy's point, when he started talking about Terry and Arthur, remember, prior to the restructuring in 2020, man, I'm sounding like John Harris. Prior to the 2021 restructuring, when they had the press conference, they never ever gave the full-thrown support behind Matt Ryan still being there, or Julio Jones. Go back and look at the introductory press conference for Arthur and Terry from 2021. They couldn't commit at the moment. I think they were thinking about it last year. So, I mean, like I said, it's not personal, man. That's teams do it all the time. We just hadn't done it in 14 years. People move on, especially when you're not winning. If New England can move on from a 6-time Super Bowl champ, from a 6-time all-time GOAT of the league, if they can move on from that, we can move on from that. And that still doesn't diminish that he's the best, arguably the best player in franchise history. Lisa says, I was there when Roddy and Mike Vick were honored. It was great. It was awesome. It was awesome. Rusty says, I retract my previous statement. Now that I think about it, they had to know Julio was disgruntled before the draft because he was only traded a month later. Yeah, I think they, and again, I think they knew there was a little bit of disgruntled stuff prior to that restructure in March of 2021. But it just wasn't public. It became public when Shannon Sharp made the phone call with Julio. Matter of fact, you hadn't even heard whispers of Julio being disgruntled until that phone call. Hey, Julio, what are we gonna do? Julio, you said what the Falcons? You said what the Falcons? Dimed out everybody. To this day, still remember that. And they couldn't even talk about it afterwards because they were thinking about charging. Yeah, if people don't remember that, they were thinking about charging Shannon Sharp because they put him on the air without letting him know. What's going on, Augusta Gator? How you doing? Pitts is more than a tight end, though. And listen, you're absolutely right. And I don't want the narrative to be twisted. Kyle Pitts is a beast, Gator. And I know you support. I watch your stuff too. I know he's a beast. And he is. He's the truth. I just don't. And Gator, you should know, because you've had some studs come out of Florida. You know. So even as great as Kyle Pitts was, in your wildest dreams, did you think he would be the number 4 pick overall? With all those quarterbacks that were circling around in the top 5. And if you're to a man, if you're being honest, you probably say no. Michael Parsons was there. I think Michael Parsons would have been a nice pick at number 4. None of this to say that I'm throwing him back in the water. Trust me. Oh, Kyle is here to stay. Need to get my number 8 jersey, matter of fact, rolling. But, yeah. Wallace says, but when we drafted Pitts, we weren't counting on losing Julio. Yeah, I think somebody else said that. I'm probably just getting to your comment. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Antonio says, but we did kind of figure he was going to get a suspension. I think you might be talking about Deshaun. Yeah, and even if he was, Antonio, at the time, we didn't get dirty details. We weren't quite sure, but I think everybody was on the 6 game, 8 game. Man, after the way this lawyer is playing this for these women, boy, he is surgically dicing up Deshaun. Surgically. I don't think it's a way you could put him on the field this year. It'll just be too much of a distraction. Even if he were to settle with every woman that came forward, which I don't think he will, the NFL doesn't need that. They had to go through domestic violence. They had to go through social change. Now they're going to have to go through, I don't know what you call it, contractual sex. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's something that they want to deal with. Cortez, I get that it's time to move on. And no, I didn't think he would have stayed after this season. I don't think it would have been contract reasons. It would have been because of front office personnel reasons. I agree with that. But we could have been smarter is what I'm upset about. Players come and go. I'm nowhere near upset now than when I was. Then we didn't resign prime time, but we had so many more options to make us think better. If they had an opportunity to do it all over again, Cortez, I think maybe they would have possibly thought about it different. But sometimes when you start thinking about that, I mean, I think what Terry and Arthur were thinking at the moment, and I don't think there was a disregard for the outside stuff happening. I think you had an opportunity to get an arguably top 5 quarterback talent on your team with some tread on his tires. And probably hasn't reached his prime yet. I think that's the thought going forward. Now, did you have to probably take a hit publicly? Yeah, you would have. But I think after all this other stuff has come out, I think it's kind of, you know, I don't know. I think it's kind of one of those things where you gotta sit back and just say, I'm glad it didn't happen. I get your anger. Your anger is well placed. I get where you're coming from. That's cool. But it's just hard to go back in time. Maybe it doesn't look as smart now, but what you thank your stars for is that it didn't go through. Would you like to get more than a third round pick? Yeah. You weren't gonna get a number one pick from Matt Ryan. I don't care who. You weren't gonna get a number one pick. Had we traded him maybe in 2020, or at the beginning of 2021, you could have possibly gotten a number one pick. And I agree with that. But I don't think you were going to get more than a second round pick from Matt, in my opinion. Tidy says they knew Julio was not going to be on the team when they took the job. Notice they never mentioned or spoke on him publicly. They knew. Absolutely. Again, we didn't realize that until the Shannon Sharp phone call. Nobody even talked about it. Nobody even talked about it. Let me see who this is. I'm trying to see. I'm sorry. I might have skipped somebody. I'm trying to see. I don't see who this is. I apologize. Why not try something different? Matt gave us some good years, but every good thing must come to an end when you are already counting him out and haven't given him a chance. Don't that sound familiar with the quarterback that used to play here? Yeah, true. Sounds very familiar. Gator says, I actually thought we picked Pitts. I know it's hard to believe. It wasn't. Listen, I was listening to the Mel Kipers and the Todd McShays and the guys on NFL Network. A lot of them had Kyle Pitts going pretty high, and a lot of them had Kyle Pitts coming to Atlanta. I just didn't realize that they would pull the trigger. I said, what do you think about Felipe Franks playing tight end? I love it because other than that, Felipe Franks wasn't going to make the squad. As you know, down in Florida, Felipe got his opportunity and didn't cash in when he had the chance. I think right now with his big frame and he looks like he's in really good shape. He actually had a lot of time at tight end late last year. But I think he's at a point right now where he realizes the only way I'm going to make an NFL squad at the moment is to be flexible. And I think he'll probably make the team as a second or third tight end, probably third, because I thought they brought in the guy from Tennessee as the other tight end. But I think I like it. Nothing wrong with that with me. Tiny says, I don't know if y'all remember, but it came out that Ryan was told the Falcons may draft a quarterback last draft. So by his own admission, he wasn't totally blindsided by this. And remember, if you guys watched the interview with Pat McAfee, when he was, matter of fact, if you get a chance, go watch it. It was a great interview. I always like Pat McAfee because a lot of the guys are really very, cool with him. So I really do like that. But he said they talked to him prior. He didn't like what they were saying, but they told him he was gonna they were having some thoughts about going for Deshaun. And even what you're talking about, Tidy, even prior to that, about drafting a quarterback last year. I mean, Matt's gotta realize. And if he was winning, it would be a whole different conversation. Now, if I'm Aaron Rodgers and you go in the first round and draft Jordan Love, I am kind of like scratching my head a little bit. But come on, man. Matt Ryan, that you thinking about getting a quarterback? Come on, man. Yeah, you got to be realistic. Uh, I saw something else in here. I don't know, what did I say? Cortez. I don't know why this isn't coming up on my thing, Cortez. I can see it on light. There it is. Cortez says, so we're going to take the mobile quarterback that has taken more sacks than our cement shoe quarterback. And we know our offensive line is one of the worst in the league year in and year out. So why would Deshaun Watson be any different? Tom Brady left New England, and I like Matt Jones. Cortez, I can't make you unfeel what you feel. I get you. I think there are a lot of people upset about Matt Ryan. If you wanted to trudge along with another 2022 and hope defeat of 2012 were coming, or 2016 were coming back, that's fine. I can't make you think differently. All I know is this was a great opportunity and a great part in the franchise to kind of change things up, whether you're talking mobile quarterback or not. And it would be nice to kind of see the mobile quarterback. I'm not get a more athletic quarterback in here. Now, if you look down, more than half of the NFL franchises right now, the athletic quarterback is in vogue right now. You look at the teams that are successful, the teams that are up there. And I know Matt Stafford is not going to fool you in thinking he's Mike Vick, but he's more athletic than Matt Ryan. You know, Patrick Mahomes, you look at Justin Herbert, you look at Joe Burrow, you look at Josh Allen, you look at Jalen Hurts, you look at that was my guy. Oh, it's just he's on the top of Lamar Jackson. There's a trend going on, and instead of us, trying to go for that kind of trend, we're gonna be nostalgic because this is the best quarterback in franchise history. I'm sorry. I don't know. Let me see. Go back down here. Tidy says, excellent interview. Wallace says, Uncle Steve, come on now. Franks is not making the team as our third tight end. He might make it as a fourth. They're going to be blocking tight end. This is a 2 tight end set you use here in Atlanta. They're probably going to have they're probably going to carry 4 tight ends on the team. And you have an emergency quarterback. I think that might be the thing that you might have in there, Wallace. You don't have to carry another full-time quarterback. You have your emergency quarterback in place. And if it's one thing Franks does have, he has a grip of the system now. He knows what's coming. Tidy says, Steve, I don't know any quarterback during my era that has survived 4 consecutive losing seasons without being traded or cut. I'm just off the top of my head. I don't know. I really don't. That's a very good. I'm just looking real quick at football. And I don't. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm going down the list here. Buffalo, Dallas, losing records. I'm just trying to. I'm looking, y'all. I'm looking. Maybe Matt Stafford. Let me see Detroit real quick. Matt Stafford. Maybe him. That's about the only person I can think of. Rusty says Franks will make the team as a third string quarterback. He'll be a healthy scratch about 15 weeks and take a few snaps at tight end the 2 weeks he's active. I don't even think they're going to list him as a quarterback. To the point, I just think he's going to be. I just think he's going to be I think they'll list him as a tight end, and then he'll be the emergency quarterback. He'll be Mohamed Sanu. I think that's how they're going to play it. I mean, they're paying him peanuts. And think about it, they're paying Ritter peanuts. That's the other thing that people got to remember about this Mariota Ritter thing. Mariota, right now, with Mariota, you don't want him to win the job. You don't want him to be if you're Terry and Arthur, in the back of your mind, you don't want him to win this job financially. Because one, you'll have to pay him the $12 million next year. But think about it. Ritter, you're not paying him as a third rounder. If he starts on your team, and he might not start at the beginning of the year, but he ends up starting, you're not paying him high salary. And think about before the Stafford contract, a lot of these guys who've been successful, Russell Wilson won his Super Bowl low contract, Nick Foles, which would have been Carson Wentz on the front end of the quarter of their contract. Tom Brady giving away money. You really haven't seen the $30 million quarterback until this past season win the Super Bowl. Well, I don't know. Tidy says, looked it up. Believe it or not, Stafford never have. Oh, really? Okay. And that's the only person just off the top of my head, because I know they did have a year or two. I know they definitely made the playoffs at least maybe three times with Stafford. 3, 2, 3, something like that. But yeah, I just don't. And I said, if somebody sticks around with you long enough, you're going to get an emotional attachment, whether you like it or not. If something that you don't like at the beginning stays with you for 10 years, you're gonna have an emotional attachment, whether you like it or not. And it goes the same with fans. Some folks, we start talking about sports and stuff like that. You start thinking about the first person that comes to my mind. I don't know why. Kyle Lowry. I was thinking about him with the Toronto Raptors, and they were making a big deal that he'd been there since a long time, and he's the heart and soul and all of that. But it's time to move on. Eventually, got to find out DeMar DeRozan was probably better. Yeah, just after a long time, sometimes it's time to move on. Rusty says people say Mariota was Ritter's comp coming into the draft. I think Dak when I see Ritter play. I think Ritter has a good game, and it'll be interesting to see how they play that. I mean, think about it, y'all. This will be the first time, probably, this will be the first time since 2008 that Falcon fans really are going to pay attention to the preseason. Think about that. When is the last time we were actually invested in preseason? And yeah, I know you got position battles at other places and wide receiver and running back and all this and all that. But think about this. This will be the first time Falcon fans will absolutely be glued to the TV, internet, computer, or whatever when the Falcons games come on. Because this will be the first time we've actually had legitimate battle at the most important position in the NFL. That's to me, that's cool. Wallace says, but Mariota has something to prove, and he's going to make it tough for them to make a decision on keeping him after this year. Listen, I'm not here to tell you Mariota isn't going to come in all guns blazing trying to win this job. And I'm also not guaranteeing that he won't win the job. Mariota needs this. A number 2 overall pick, unceremoniously discarded from Tennessee, and arguably Tennessee got better when you left. I know, Derrick Henry. But they did. They had more success. Yeah, Mariota needs this. And I hope he does. Listen, as an Atlanta Falcon fan, I want the best to be out there. And if that happens to be Mariota, fine. But I'm just saying from a financial standpoint, and I think if it was a perfect world, think about that. If Ritter is your quarterback, and granted, you're still only paying peanuts by quarterbacks' terms to Mariota next year. I think he's at $8 million this year, $12 million next. Well, $8 million if he reaches incentives this year, and $12 million next year. So that, I mean, of course, yeah. If Mariota wins the job, as long as he's performing, more power to him. But I think deep down, wink, wink in the back room, I think they hope Ritter snatches it from him. And tell us that yet, LOL, Tidy and Steve, he escaped the 2021 season by leaving because the 2021 season would have made the fourth year. Yeah, well, if you're talking about, you're talking about Matt Stafford. Absolutely, he did. Absolutely. Now, look, Matt Stafford making AT&T commercials. And we sitting here trying to wax poetic about our longtime legendary quarterback who, since 2016 and 17, really, and you can argue 17 wasn't a great year. 18 was better than 17. You know. Wallace says, who do you think will be our starting running back? I hope it's Algiers. I hope so. Damian Williams is somebody that's a little bit intriguing to me. I know he's well-traveled, but he's somebody that's a little intriguing. Puts the ball down on the ground a little bit, but he's intriguing to me. But I hope the rookie does. He had a lot of carries last year, too. That always kind of bothers me a little bit when I see the number of touches that a rookie gets coming into the next year. And I know you've had off season to kind of get that. But I listen, I hope he gets his opportunity. I hated that we didn't kind of treat Allison a little better. I would have loved to see Allison get his opportunity. I know he did a little bit at the end of last year and did pretty well. But for the last few years, I don't know who he didn't have on his side, but it would have been nice to see what we got out of him. He can't have that much wear and tear. So I'm kind of glad he is back. But I like to see the youth on this team get some carries. No disrespect to Patterson. Love to see what Patterson can do, but I'd almost, this is scary, I'd almost rather see him lined up as a wide receiver. We know he can do it. And it sounds like Arthur Smith is one of those guys that he wants you to know have experience in multiple positions, which is also cool. I think I like that about him too. Why get stuck? Why get stuck with just having somebody just know one spot? I know everybody was talking about Kyle Pitts. Same thing. Gator was talking about that. You could split. You could split Kyle Pitts as they did plenty of times out on the edge. Just as successful. And maybe he'll have some help this year. I hope he does. Maybe he will. But that was my topic today. I hope everybody continues to comment on it. Whether you draw the line on supporting former Falcon players during the season, I think it's like I said again, it's kind of shenanigans and buffoonery to sit out there and gloat about wearing another team's jersey and whatever. And I guess maybe I'm beyond that as far as that's concerned. Now, as a joke, maybe, but yeah, you being serious. That's some deep rooted stuff you have against the team. I don't know what that is, but I just don't see you as a real fan when you do stuff like that. But that's just my opinion, and that's what this is all about. Different opinions on here. But glad to join y'all on a Monday again, man. Stay cool because man, it is hot and it's supposed to get even hotter tomorrow. So you all just make sure you have a good. Yeah, I got you, Rusty. I got you. Just have a great week. I promise y'all I'm gonna be coming on a little bit later on this week with a couple of things, probably maybe towards the end of the week, but definitely with another video or two. Appreciate all the love on here. Uncle Steve's Lounge on YouTube. If you haven't had an opportunity, got a lot of traction on YouTube. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Spread the word. Let everybody know going into the season, Uncle Steve's Lounge is going to be the place to be. Atlanta Bird Gang, always appreciate you. Got love for y'all. We will catch y'all down the line. Y'all have a great Monday. And Warriors will win by 15 today. You heard it here first. All right. Y'all be good. Peace.